Welcome to the Beacon Way podcast, hosted by award-winning executive team of Beacon Media and Marketing. With over 3 decades of experience, Adrian, Jennifer, and Ken give you an insider's view of what's working, what's not, and what's on the horizon for digital marketing. Grow your business today with the Beacon Way podcast.
Hey, welcome back to the Beacon Way podcast. This is Jennifer, your host today. And I have been waiting for this podcast for a couple months now. So very excited to introduce Johnny Crowder. I think a lot of people that are our listeners will know who he is, but hopefully you're as excited as I am. Johnny, thank you so much for joining the podcast. We have some great stuff to go over today.
Of course, I'm pumped.
Yeah. So Johnny, for the few that don't know you, weren't at the Mental Health Marketing Conference, didn't get to hear that amazing keynote, can you give me the 1 minute for our listeners so they know, hey, this is something I definitely want to pay attention to today?
Yeah, this question is always tricky. I call it 30 years and 30 seconds because it's like, how do I sum up everything?
That's so true.
But the shortest version possible is that I grew up with severe mental illness in an abusive household. So I learned all the wrong ways to cope. I learned all of these untrue things about myself. Around high school is when I started treatment, not because I decided to, but because I was voluntold to attend treatment. And then I wound up going to school for psychology. Through all of this time, I'm touring in a metal band, and that was like my primary coping mechanism, was using art and music to express myself. And then I thought I'd never use my psych degree until I started working with NAMI, doing peer support and public advocacy. And I'm like, wait a second, this is really interesting to me. And then now for the last 14 years, I've been speaking at conferences and events and doing trainings all related to mental health and combating some of the challenges that we face mentally and emotionally in the workplace and outside of it. And then I've been running a company called Cope Notes for about 7 years now. Yeah. And we send randomly timed text messages that train the brain to think healthier thoughts.
I love that. I have not gotten on Cope Notes. I'm going to have to check that out. I love the randomness of that. I hadn't. So through text mainly, or is that the way you guys communicate it?
Yeah, 1 text per day at a random time that contains psychology facts, journaling prompts, exercises. Like, you never know when we're going to text you or what the text will say. Yeah. But all the messages are written by real peers with lived experience, like people who understand what you're going through, and based on proven psychology. So over time, this is proven to reduce stress, anxiety, and depression with these little 10-second interventions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most of us who've been on the mental health journey and have experienced what I call the renewing of your mind, so to speak, with things that are true versus false. Every time you get one of those, it matters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
it's the same. I would tell somebody, every carrot you eat makes a difference. Every time you take the stairs instead of the elevator makes a difference. Every extra 5 minutes of sleep that we get by going to sleep 5 minutes earlier, that makes a difference. We just forget how things compound.
We do. Yeah, I think, I don't know if this is for you. We were just talking before we started this, that most of the people you've met, most of the people I've met that go into mental health, even from a marketing perspective, like we are, or business, whatever, they have their reasons, right? Mm-hmm. So it's usually personal reasons that have affected that. And I think that just makes so much sense to me. So I am curious, based on where you came from, where you are now, would you say that it's still a continuous process for you of continuing to work through those lies and continuing to be on that journey?
I am talking to you right now from someone else's home. Because I just you already know this, but listeners don't know. I just lost my home and everything I own in a hurricane in Florida. And this is like a month ago. So I'm just this is other people's furniture. I didn't choose this wall color. If you're watching the video, I would not choose this wall color for this. I am in the middle of walking it out. I have right next to me, I didn't stage this for the video, but I have a book that I'm reading, The Art of Happiness, right now, which is helping me cope with suffering and not compound my own suffering by telling myself stories about what I'm going through that aren't helpful. So I'm in the middle of walking it out again and again. And it's funny, every time I always say recovery is a full-time job. And what I mean by that is right when things are going well is when you shouldn't stop doing what is helping you stay healthy. It's imagine getting in really good shape and saying, that's it, I'll never go to the gym again. No, the gym is what's got you into good shape. So
Yeah.
I'm right now facing one of the biggest challenges of my adult life, and I am throwing everything that I know to be healthy at it. And I know that once I recover from this, even if I have 9 years of bliss, which would be great after going through all this, that sounds great.
Right.
Give me 9 years of bliss.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I will still be doing the things that I know are healthy because it's my responsibility.
Talk to me about that, about the responsibility part. And I ask that question out of context with understanding when we talk about trauma, and a lot of us that have been through it, for me at least, it was easy to fall into that victim piece or overtaking responsibility, one or the other, like back and forth between the two of everything's my fault, or I'm just going to blame everybody else because I don't want to face that. So how did you come to that point of finding the responsibility part that is healthy?
So this is tricky because I'm trying to do this right now. When I was younger, I would not take responsibility. I'd say, I was abused and I have health conditions. I didn't do this to myself. This is not my fault. And therefore, I shouldn't have to do anything about it. Other people should fix it for me. And that sounded like a great narrative when I was young because I was so intimidated. And then as I got older, especially a lot of people listening, like are entrepreneurs, they run their own business. So you're used to taking responsibility. You're like, I have to do this because nobody else will. And then I went, I think, a little too far in the other direction where I'm not joking. When this happened, I thought, if only I would have picked a different place to live and
Oh
then I
my
wouldn't be
gosh.
losing my home. And
You
it's
did-
no, dude,
you went
don't
that
choose.
far? Yeah.
Don't spin this to somehow make it. So I struggle with finding that line. I look at things that happened to me when I was young and I think that wasn't my fault, but it
Right.
is my responsibility to heal from it because no one else is going to heal from it for me. But then sometimes I can overcorrect and take too much responsibility and say, oh, if I wouldn't have chosen to park there, or if I would have stacked the books differently, then my friend or family member wouldn't have exploded on me. And it's, hold on, it's not your responsibility to know exactly how to stack some books. This person has some challenges. So I'm still learning how to balance taking responsibility for what is my responsibility. And then where I'm actually struggling sometimes now is holding other people accountable for what is their responsibility. Because I'm so used to taking it on myself. I have to be like, no, the way that you just behaved was unhealthy. And it's not my responsibility to tolerate behavior like that. It's like learning to put my foot down.
Yeah. Because that is taking responsibility almost for your own emotion and taking care of yourself. I definitely swung later in my life where I am now. I've swung back a bit, which is nice, but I definitely swung to the over responsibility part. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I have wondered, I know so many entrepreneurs that have been through massive trauma, and I'm trying to think if I know people that haven't. I guess a few, but it seems like such a driving force behind that entrepreneurial, like it goes hand in hand because it's like you're willing to risk extreme things. You're willing to not get paid for a long period of time, to know that it all depends on you, I just think about some of my behavior and I'm like, okay, was that a trauma response or was that actually that I was born to be an entrepreneur? I do think I was born to be an entrepreneur, but the extremes with it have not always been good for me at all.
Yeah. I don't think normal people become entrepreneurs. Like, I think if you
That
look,
is true.
my example is always Kanye West. Kanye West has a shoe brand. He started a school. He started a record label. He had a music company. He started an apparel brand. It's no normal person becomes like a platinum selling artist and goes, I need to make shoes and then I should open a school. And I don't know him personally. I honestly don't know much about him. But what I think is if a child, this is a stretch, maybe I'm projecting here, but if a child was loved and cared for and supported and was in a happy, healthy environment, they probably wouldn't feel the need to go to such extraordinary lengths to prove to themselves that they matter and they're making an impact. And I think the same is true for me. What possesses someone to be like, I'm going to be a rock star? It's because you feel ignored and that no one's seeing you. And what possesses you to want to stick up for other people? And it's because you were hurt when you were young and now you want to stick up for others. So I do think there's like anyone who's out there taking big risks and trying to accomplish something huge probably needs to hear something like, hey, even if you didn't do all this stuff, you would still matter and be very important and valuable. And your work is not the thing that gives you validity or value. And I need to hear that stuff all the time.
Yeah. I just had a very healing experience this weekend, actually. And some people spoke into my life and said that they know me, but they didn't know me that well. But they very lovingly spoke into my life of, you have just been trying to prove yourself to whoever. That's their impression. It's okay. You've done it. You get to decide now. You've done it. You get to decide now. What do you want your life to look like?
Yeah.
That was literally a revolutionary thought to me, even in the whole healing process that I've been through. It was like, wait a minute. No, I don't get to decide that. I have to I have 3 businesses going right now, Johnny, and I'm always thinking about the next one, right?
Yeah.
So that it actually made me stop and pause and go, do I want to have all that going right now? Versus do I just feel like I need to keep pushing? And it was, I'm still like just reeling from it.
My therapist said something to me years ago that has stuck in my head since then. I don't even know if he knows like how big of an impact this has made on me. I should probably text him and be like, hey, thanks for this. But he said something like, what if you've already done more than you'll ever have to do? What if you already met your quota for you helped enough people or opened enough doors for old ladies holding groceries or whatever? What if there was some quota? You had to do 96,407 nice things for other people or whatever your thing is. Yeah. And then he's like, what if you passed your quota and everything from here on out is just gravy? Like it's just bonus because you don't owe anybody anything anymore. And it felt like this. It didn't make me want to stop being kind to people, but it made me feel like I wasn't earning my keep anymore as a person. And I think people who grow up in traumatic environments, you feel like you're constantly trying to earn love or acceptance from the people around you who aren't treating you well. So you get older and you're like, man, if only I help enough people, then maybe I'll love myself or maybe other people will love me. And he was like, what if you already did it? And you're just like, what if you passed the finish line like 3.5 years ago and you're just still running and all the sponsors are gone and all the tents are taken down and everybody else has gone on with their life and you're still running the marathon, but there's no track anymore. And I'm just like, oh, shoot. Like that's such an interesting mental picture.
That's really profound. Yeah. What does life look like beyond that when you get to have true freedom?
Dude, and what's funny is it'd be the same. I'd still work in behavioral health. I'd still hold the door open for old ladies. Like it wouldn't change my behavior. It would change my posture, pressure. I wouldn't be so crushed by feeling like these things were the only thing that could earn my validity. But I wouldn't do any less of it. In fact, I might do more because I'm not so squished.
I think that I hope that's the case. Like you're back talking about Kanye West, and I see that example. A lot of the people I admire probably get me killed on this podcast right now, like Mark Wahlberg, Elon Musk, not necessarily personality wise, but just the brain behind it, all of that. I look at these people and I have wondered, is it the pushing, the negative, the pressure that they feel that drives them? Or if they actually got healed, would they actually even do better?
This will resonate with creatives, like anybody who's listening who's like a copywriter or a graphic designer, they do video. I remember, so I wrote music for most of my life. That's been a huge part of my life since I was a kid. And I remember when I was first starting treatment, I used to write songs and I'd spend like months writing them. And it would be this very like tortured artist, like tumultuous writing process where it would take me a long time. But then I was like, these are masterpieces. Like, look. And then I would credit my pain with the art. I'm like, yeah, but the pain was what allowed me to create the art. And then I went to treatment and I was like, no, don't make me better. because then I won't have any ideas. I won't be creative. I'll
Oh,
lose that
yeah.
thing that gives me my fire and drives me. And they were like, you're not doing great. So you might wind up dying before you get to write that thing you've always wanted to write. So let's just try to make you better. And if you don't like it, we'll readjust. So what's funny is as I started getting better, writing became easier. And I was so confused by that. I was like, wait, I thought the pain was like giving me my motivation or my creative juices. And then I was like, no, the pain was blocking my creative juices and making it take 3 months to write a song. And then as I started getting healthier, I'd write half a song in the shower. I'd be driving and I'd come up with a melody and then I'm like, holy crap. And then I come up with a harmony. And then by the time I get to wherever I'm going, I have a 1.5-minute voice note that turns into a whole song. And I didn't even try. So it's sometimes the thing that we think is enabling our strengths is actually inhibiting the heights that we could achieve without it.
I have definitely seen exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm still ADD, but I am way less ADD, like through the healing. And I definitely do better in every area of my life. So I love that for creatives though, because I do think that's a definite misnomer that I hear a lot, even I feel like that's been put out there quite a bit. So tell me about the last 14 years that you've been doing. You said 14 years, I think, right? That you've been in this journey and helping others and that part of things. What's your favorite part of it? What just brings you joy in the whole process of what you get to be a part of now?
There are 2 things that jump out at me. I enjoy a lot of it. It's like the coolest job in the world. But 2 things jump out at me. One is for me and one is for other people. I'll start with the one for other people.
Yeah.
The thing that I love for other people is the tangible change that happens. Like I'll be speaking and I always want house lights up so I can see like people's faces and facial expressions and their body language. And it's so cool to see people slowly soften, especially if I'm working for like a business audience and there's like guys in suits and they're like, everyone's trying to be real tough and professional. And then you can see them become more and more human. And at the end, they make these commitments. I always encourage my audience to make commitments. And sometimes this guy said, as a result of being at one of your talks and the commitment that I made was I went home and played catch with my son for the first time. And he's 13. He has asked me to play catch with him forever, but I've been so busy with work and I just put it off. He's now 13. I just played catch with him for the first time. And I feel like it changed the course of my family history. Like it was such a pivotal decision for me to get up from my desk. And this was during the workday, by the way. So because his son gets home from school at 2 or whatever.
Right.
So he's like getting up and going to play catch with his son in the middle of the workday. And he's showing his son, like, you matter to me. Like you are a priority to me. Yes, it's during the workday, but I'm going to choose not to have a meeting or not to work on something to prioritize you. And seeing that happen, especially for entrepreneurs, people are really business minded, it's just the coolest feeling. And then the cool thing for me in return is the feeling of invincibility that I get to feel by everybody already knowing everything about me. Like I don't hide. I don't have secrets. I'm not like, oh, please, I hope they don't. Like you can Google all of the hardest stuff I've ever been through. I've even gone on dates with people and they're like, I won't go on a date with you again because I Googled you and you've been through a lot of stuff and that's a lot of baggage. But it feels nice that I don't have to hide stuff. I'm not worried that people will discover something about me. And that makes me feel so uniquely comfortable in settings that could potentially be uncomfortable, like a first date or a demo, like a call with some big potential client. What are they going to find out about me that I haven't already said on stage somewhere? It's this feeling of, I think it's security. And I grew up very insecure because I had all these things that I hoped nobody would find out I was living with a mental health condition. I hope nobody would find out I was abused. And now it's, dude, whatever. Everybody knows. It's not even news anymore. And it makes me feel so uniquely socially safe and confident in a way that I could never feel if I didn't make a career out of being honest and vulnerable and telling the truth.
I love that. Yeah, I have spoken That really resonates with me on a personal level. I've spoken at many churches about some of the really hard stuff that I've gone through and some of the hard stuff that I did, my part of it as well. I haven't done it publicly outside of that. There's like this line of, okay, this is like that safer environment. And then it's not like I would ever hide anything. Anybody ask me anything, I'm
Yeah.
open book, right? But no, I don't know. I can see the advantage in that, definitely, of just not having to think about it, not having, and if people judge, they judge, but now it's like all out there, you know?
Yeah. I feel some people, I'm rejected all the time, by the way. I played pickleball a couple days ago. I asked a girl for a phone number and she's like, no. And I'm like, that's okay. That happens. It's part of life. And then I'll go to a conference and I'll meet somebody from some big health tech company and I'm like, oh, we should work together. I send them an email and they're like, not interested. Like it's okay. It comes with the territory. And I think I would rather be rejected on the grounds of someone actually knowing me and looking at the facts and being like, actually, this person isn't for me, then a lot of people are rejected for the person they pretend to be. And that
Ooh.
sucks.
Okay,
Because
that we got to pull that out. That one right there, that's where most people live.
oh yeah, and that was me, by the way, when I started Cope Notes and I was going to conferences. I got a suit from JCPenney. I never wear suits. I never wear suits. I got a suit. I'd wear them to conferences. I'd try to cover up all my tattoos. And I would be like, oh, Mr. Crowder, give me a break, dude. Like I tried so hard to be Mr. CEO and it felt so unauthentic and so uncomfortable. I was so in my head the whole conference that I couldn't even focus on any of my interactions. And then I'd get rejected, of course, because you're going to get rejected no matter what.
Yeah.
And so I received the rejection without the benefit of getting to be myself. So then I thought, oh, if only they knew the real me, they might not have rejected me. It's skip that whole step. Be yourself. And you got to think, coin flip. 50% of people just won't be interested in having a relationship with you. And
Absolutely.
that's sad, but it's true no matter what. So why get yeses for somebody that you'd have to pretend to be indefinitely? I don't know if you ever read about divorce, but fascinating statistics around how a lot of people divorce when they realize who their partner, quote unquote, really is. And it's because we put our best foot forward on the first date, and then we accidentally do it for the first year, and then we do it through the engagement, and then we do it through the first 7 years of marriage, and then we're like, this is not me. And our partner's, oh no, I never would have
you. Yeah.
married you if I knew that you weren't the person you pretended to be. It's skip the whole 7 years, be yourself.
Yeah.
And this will mean that people will reject you, but they're going to reject you no matter who you pretend to be. So you might as well not pretend.
So I have a confession on that one. I woke up, I kept just craving authentic relationships with women. I just was craving this 30s, 40s, couldn't seem to find it. And then I had this wake up call, as I had a lot of women that were my friends, right? They were in my life. I have an amazing marriage, by the way, but that's a whole other story of how I got there. Definitely neither one of us real, but then we got to be real and we decided to love each other anyway.
Yeah.
But the female thing was just torturous because I really wanted this authentic thing. And then I had this wake up call. It's only been about 10 years now. I'm like, I'm not being real. So if I'm not being real, I'm attracting all these other people that aren't real. I don't like them. They probably don't even really like me. Like, why? They don't even know me. Like, what am I doing?
Brutal. Not feeling known
Right.
is such a sad, lonely feeling.
It is. And
not
loneliness
being liked is hard.
Right.
But not being known is a totally different level of hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And that definitely goes back to my trauma. That goes back to all of that stuff. But now to have friends that know me, like really know me, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I know that, it is the coolest thing in the world. Like women in general don't do that super well, especially if, at least from what I've seen, like if you're powerful. I don't know. I got lots of thoughts on that. But I have that now. Wouldn't trade that for the world.
That is awesome. Hard earned.
Hard earned. Yeah, definitely. But obviously you have that now. You're in somebody's home. You're staying with them.
Yeah.
And what's next in this process is I know you're walking out the grief, you're walking out that part of it. Practically, what are you thinking for the next year?
Jen, I have no freaking idea. And that is that
I
is
love it.
not only the God's honest truth, but that is also the biggest lesson to me in this whole thing is, bro, I run a business. Like, we plan stuff. We
Right.
have quarterly goals, we have annual goals, we have strategic team meetings, we have we do check-ins with our employees. Like, we plan stuff. We plan campaigns, we plan outreach, we plan conference participation,
Right.
some of these a year or 2 years in advance.
Right.
So I am no stranger to the security that comes from knowing what the heck is going to happen next. And this experience has completely robbed me of that feeling of security, of knowing where I'm going to live, what I'm going to eat, I'm starting over. And the challenge here is accepting what is my responsibility and what isn't, like we said earlier.
Yeah.
And I have to make peace. What is my responsibility is making peace with not knowing.
Okay.
Because if I feel like I know what the plan is, then I can consciously work towards it.
Right.
And right now, because I don't know, like when FEMA came to look at the place, it's obliterated. They were like, they're going to demolish it. And I was like, when do you think they might build something in its place?
Right.
And they were like, could be 3 months, could be 3 years. And I'm like, what a wild response. But the thing is, they didn't know. There's trees down everywhere. There's power out. There's people didn't have water. They're like, bro, we don't know when. We don't even know when a crew would be available. So it's instead of grabbing the FEMA guy and shaking him like, how come you don't know? I'm like, bro, no, none of us know. Nobody has any idea what's going on. And me struggling against the uncertainty is creating more suffering than I would experience if I just accepted what is my responsibility, which is I need to eat today, I need to exercise today, I need to bathe today, I need to sleep today, and I need to communicate with a friend or family member so that I don't go insane. And if I can manage to do those things for enough days in a row, then something will happen, something will change. But I'm learning present tense, learning to make peace with not knowing, and seeing if I can achieve and maintain contentment and fulfillment in the face of such tremendous uncertainty of my present and my future.
That is huge. Yeah, that is huge. I think that I don't know many people that do that well.
I am hoping that I can add this to my skill set list, because I had a friend tell me, you're probably going to win the lottery after going through this.
Yeah, right?
Because something good's going to happen. This is just such a wild thing to experience. And I am hoping that's the case. I'd love to win the lottery. But I also think that there are ways that you win the lottery proverbially. And maybe the lottery that I win is that this hones in me the ability to accept and thrive within uncertainty instead of fighting to achieve certainty.
And then that becomes, like you said, even part of your ability to outpour to others. Because I think if there's one word I can use over the last 4 years that I have felt more than any other time in my life, from a global world perspective, it's uncertainty. That's I kind of remember thinking that after COVID, things would go back to normal, but then there was this part of me, no, it's not going to. I didn't necessarily expect it to get even more uncertain. And I don't think a lot of people did, but that definitely feels like the overall world we're living in now.
Yeah, there's this concept of anti-fragility that's really interesting to me, which is resilience is being able to withstand or endure these challenges. The idea behind anti-fragility is that actually you benefit from the uncertainty and volatility. Like, it somehow makes you stronger, or you are somehow prepared enough to where this actually hones your abilities. In Taekwondo, if you punch me in the stomach, resilience would be you punch me in the stomach and I can take it. And anti-fragility would be you punch me in the stomach and my abs get stronger. And I'm like, oh, don't punch me in the stomach anymore because you're only going to make me stronger. It's like a totally different approach. So I'm not saying I'm doing this perfectly, but I'm trying. I'm putting everything I can into how can I use this disaster in my life to develop such mental and emotional strength that I am better off as a result of experiencing it than I would have been if it never happened to me. And I don't know what that looks like. That's a very vague concept, but I'm open to whatever that looks like. I'm actively working towards a goal that I can't picture. And I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm writing a book right now called Infinite Thinking in the Age of Intelligence. And what you just described is very similar to that, which is it's an intention of how you live your life and put out there. And we don't know what that looks like. I'm not like a believer in that you manifest. I don't believe that, but I do very much believe that what you point yourself towards and what you say to yourself and what you focus on, it just does attract that. So I am hopeful to see your journey over the next year and what that looks like.
Yeah, so many things in my life are like this. I experienced some awful thing, and then eventually I'm like, wow, that led to this and that. So I'm hoping that I can look back and be like, oh, if that never would have happened, then I never would have lived here, met this person, or had this opportunity. So I'm just like, buddy, if you can stay alive long enough to like see those things from the past.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I have so thoroughly enjoyed this time. Thank you so much. There's 3 or 4 things. I'm going to have to go back and listen again because there's some great takeaways for me personally. So I know there will be for the people listening. So anyone who wants to hire you, get in touch, like work with you, be a part, what's the best way to contact you?
I will say that johnnycrowder.com has pretty much every piece of information. It has like videos of me speaking. It has social media links. It has a contact form, information about different keynotes and trainings that I do. So that's the spot. It also has both of my TED Talks on there. And then if you want to learn about or try Cope Notes or use it for your family or your organization or your employees or your community, whatever, if you go to copenotes.com, you can actually try it for free and then learn all this information about how we do what we do and why.
Love it. Okay. We'll put all the links up for everybody listening so you can quickly find all that. Really excited. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've got a lot going on. So thank you for that. And we'll see everybody else next time on the Beacon Way podcast.
You have been listening into the Beacon Way podcast. Make sure to join us for new episodes every week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Beacon Way on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.